bring in Seth Merrin, founder and CEO of Liquidnet. It operates a dark pool that specializes in large block trades. Seth, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so talk about how much of your business is in dark pools.
Our entire business is about dark pools. It's a terrible misnomer, terrible name. We provide a very good service, as the SEC has just pointed out.
Okay, so why then are you characterizing it as a good service, and why is the SEC concerned?
Well, in the public markets, everybody, large institutions, retail people, they all have to play nicely together in the sandbox. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. There are predators that take advantage of the institutions because the institutions' orders simply outswamp the amount of supply there is in the public marketplace. The institutions need tools to be able to mask their supply and demand information, and that's what we provide them.
How would you have to change to accommodate these new rules?
I think the rules, it's great when Mary Shapiro gets up there and says not all dark pools are created equal. And certainly our value is that we provide the tools necessary to take away the catalyst that draws all of the high-frequency trading and other types of trading that affect the institution's stock price every time they want to buy and sell stock. That ultimately goes and affects the returns for all of the 100 million households that invest in their mutual funds and their pension funds.
Well, Seth, as you just saw in our report from Lindsey Aaron in Washington, the SEC Commissioner Mary Shapiro, she expressed concerns about transparency.
Correct.
I'm sure you've heard that before, that maybe there is an unfair advantage, that the little guy is getting squeezed. How do you respond to that?
I think what they're focusing on, and I'm not in their heads, but there are huge dark pools that Mary Shapiro would term internalization engines coming out of primarily the large brokerage firms. They provide average execution sizes not different, 200, 300 shares that are not different from what you can find in the displayed pool. They're very concerned about these big private marketplaces becoming overwhelmingly large, and that if they don't provide any additional value over executing in the public markets, then why should they exist?
Okay, so you want an anonymous trade then so that the market doesn't move. But yes, on the same side, on the flip side of that, does transparency suffer?
Well, not in the case of the institution. The institution, remember, also manages money on behalf of the little guy. And if they, in simple supply and demand information, economics, if they put a 500,000 share order on the buy side and there's only 300 shares on the offer side, you know what's going to happen to the price. So institutions need very different rules in certain cases than the retail folks do on the exchanges. You cannot, and no other industry operates, wholesale and retail together at one shop. They require different things in order to protect their shareholders and their returns. And that's what the SEC is now recognizing.
Under these new rules, I'm curious about your profits. Would a lower threshold, what would that do to profits? I mean, could it ultimately put you out of business if you're talking that your entire business is in dark pools?
First of all, the meeting just happened. Schumer's letter just came out yesterday. From what we see and what we interpret, it really differentiates our business, and it could be ultimately very good for us. What we've been creating ever since we started are the tools, creating the tools and the safe haven for the institutions to do their business without all of the predators taking advantage of them. Both markets can exist together, and you have price discovery operating on the exchanges, and the SEC wants to move more of that there. You have quantity discovering happening in Liquidnet, and with price discovery and quantity discovery, you have a better market structure for everyone.
And tell me, part of your goal is to execute midpoint executions. How do you do that?
Well, that's simply the rule. When you come into the look, if you have 1 million shares to buy and you go into the exchanges and there's 200 shares for sale, that's the way that the market operates today. That can never happen well.
Yeah, but you're taking the shares of demand and making them into supply, correct?
That's correct. That's absolutely right. So 1 million shares can absorb the 10,000 shares without moving anything, and both sides get better pricing, both the retail and the wholesale.
Does this give the stock exchanges now an unfair advantage? Should the SEC look at how the stock exchanges may get a little more trading business?
Absolutely. Clearly, it's a little disturbing when Duncan Niederauer, who runs the New York Stock Exchange, appears with Charles Schumer, and it's all for the benefit of the established exchanges. There's not another duopoly or monopoly that's mandated throughout the world, but exchanges around the globe remain the sole duopoly or monopoly.
All right. Seth Merrin, founder and CEO of Liquidnet, coming on to talk about dark pools.
Thanks.
Thank you for shedding light on the controversial topic.